Birdsong drifts through the morning air as Evelyn Carter kneels in her front yard, hands deep in the soil, coaxing new life from the earth. Miles, her son, helps by pressing seeds into the ground, his laughter bright and easy. The sun glances off the petals of native wildflowers, colors bold against the clipped green of neighboring lawns. The moment is peaceful, until a shadow stretches across the garden. Gregory Ashford stands at the curb, his stance rigid, a leather folder tucked under his arm. He surveys the yard, lips pursed, eyes lingering on every blossom as if each one is a personal affront. Evelyn stands, brushing dirt from her gloves, her posture relaxed, but her gaze unwavering. Gregory clears his throat. "Mrs. Carter, this arrangement isn't in line with community standards." He pulls a folded document from his folder, the paper stiff and freshly printed. Miles looks up, confusion flickering across his face. "Mom, did we do something wrong?" Evelyn squeezes his shoulder. "No, honey, we're just growing a garden." Gregory's voice is clipped as he hands her the notice. "Rules are there for a reason. We expect compliance." His words hang in the air, heavy and final. Across the street, curtains twitch. Ms. Rivera pauses on her porch, watering can in hand, watching the exchange with a tight jaw. Mr. Thompson, the elderly neighbor, leans forward in his chair, shaking his head. The neighborhood feels smaller, the air thick with an unspoken tension. Evelyn reads the notice, her face unreadable. James Carter steps outside, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's this?" She passes him the paper. "A fine. For color, apparently." James snorts, folding the notice. "Let's see if they find the Johnsons for their plastic flamingos." Evelyn's lips curl into a quiet smile. "We'll see." As Gregory walks away, his shoes crunching on the gravel, the Carters return. To their garden, Evelyn plants another seed, her movements deliberate. The notice sits on the table, fluttering in the breeze, already losing its power. The garden remains, bright and unbowed, a silent promise that this is only the beginning. Before the story continues, please let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Curtains twitch as neighbors peer. Out, their eyes sharp and voices hushed. Inside their homes, whispers ripple like a quiet storm, admiration tangled with unease. Children press faces to windows, sensing the tension, but not its full weight. "Why are their flowers wrong?" a small voice asks. Mrs. Carter stands by the window, watching the street with calm resolve. Her hands rest lightly on the sill, fingers tracing the glass as if to hold the moment steady. The garden outside blooms defiantly, a splash of color against the uniform green. In a nearby house, a mother pulls her child close, whispering, "Some people fear what they don't understand." The child nods, eyes wide, absorbing lessons unspoken but deeply felt. Across the block, a man shifts uneasily, glancing toward the Carter's yard, his jaw tight. The neighborhood holds its breath, caught between old habits and the stirrings of change. The Carters' quiet dignity is a challenge to the unspoken rules that have long governed the street. Gregory Ashford's confidence masks a deeper fear, a fear of losing control, of the familiar order unraveling. A child's laughter breaks, the tension briefly, a reminder of innocence amid the charged atmosphere. Mrs. Carter turns from the window, her smile subtle but fierce. The garden is more than plants. It's a statement, a promise that beauty and justice can grow side by side. Across the street, a group of teenagers gather, their voices low but determined. "We should plant something bold," one says, eyes bright. "With possibility." Another nods. "Yeah, let's make this place ours, not his." Inside a dimly lit kitchen, an elderly woman folds a letter, her hand steady despite the weight of years. She places it carefully in an envelope addressed to the HOA board, a silent act of defiance. A young father watches from his porch, his gaze lingering on the Carter's garden. He turns to his daughter. "See that? That's courage. The street. Lights flicker on, casting long shadows that stretch across the pavement. The quiet tension is palpable, a community on the brink of change, held together by hope and the promise of justice. Mrs. Carter's eyes meet those of a neighbor across the street, a silent exchange of solidarity. The garden's colors seem to glow brighter in the fading light, a beacon in the gathering dusk. The scene fades with the hum of distant voices, the promise of a new day whispered in the rustling leaves. Behind closed blinds, the neighborhood waits, watching, ready for the next chapter. Mrs. Carter stands in her living room, the last light of the day painting gold across the walls. Her lips curve into a gentle, unwavering smile, a mask of calm that shields the storm of determination beneath. The fine from Gregory sits unopened on the kitchen table, a silent dare. Evelyn's hand lingers on the envelope, her touch steady, her eyes unblinking. She turns to her family, voice low but certain. "We're not backing down, not this time." Ava, her daughter, hesitates near the doorway. "Mom, are you sure?" Her voice trembles, caught between fear and hope. Evelyn's smile deepens, her gaze soft but fierce. Sometimes, the strongest storms come from the quietest smiles. She brushes a stray curl from Ava's forehead, a gesture of reassurance. That speaks louder than any speech. Outside, the neighborhood is restless. Curtains flutter, neighbors exchange glances, and whispers ripple down the street. The Carters' quiet defiance unsettles the old order. Gregory, alone in his office, paces with restless energy. His jaw is set, hands fidgeting as he glances, from the fine on his desk to the vibrant garden outside his window. The confidence that once defined him now slips, replaced by a growing sense of unease. A neighbor across the street, Mr. Harris, shakes his head as he watches Evelyn through his window. "She's not like the rest," he mutters, a note of admiration in his voice. The Carters' stance emboldens others. Ms. Rivera pauses at her mailbox, her eyes meeting Evelyn's in a silent exchange of solidarity. As evening falls, Evelyn steps outside and kneels in the garden. She plants a new seedling, her movements, deliberate and full of promise. The act is quiet but powerful, a signal that the fight is far from over. The garden, once a battleground, now glows with resilience and hope, a living testament to the strength found in restraint. Ava sits on the front steps, knees drawn to her chest, watching her mother tend the garden as dusk settles. Miles, young and restless, tosses pebbles into the flower bed, his brow furrowed. The street is quiet, except for the distant bark of a dog and the soft scrape of a rake against stone. Ava glances at her brother. "Do you think we did something wrong?" she whispers, voice barely carrying. Miles shrugs, uncertainty clouding his usually bright eyes. "I don't know. Mom says we're just growing flowers." He looks down, tracing circles in the dirt with his finger. Inside, Evelyn overhears, her heart tightening. She joins them on the steps, sitting between her children. "You didn't do anything wrong," she says, her tone gentle but firm. "Sometimes people make rules to keep things the same, even when the world is ready to change." Her words linger, heavy with meaning. Ava leans into her mother, seeking comfort. "But why us?" Evelyn wraps an arm around her, squeezing her shoulder. "Because we're not afraid to be different, and that scares some folks." Miles looks up, searching his mother's face for answers. "Will they make us pull up the flowers?" Evelyn shakes her head. "Not if we stand together." The porch? Light flickers on, casting a warm glow over the trio. Across the street, a group of kids ride their bikes past the Carter's house, slowing down to stare at the garden. One boy calls out, "Your flowers are cool." Ava smiles, a flicker of pride breaking through her worry. James Carter steps onto the porch, handing out lemonade. "You two are the bravest gardeners I know," he says, ruffling Miles's hair. The family sits together, the weight of unspoken rules pressing in but unable to break their bond. As night falls, Ava and Miles carry that lesson inside, a quiet understanding of injustice, but also the seeds of resilience. The garden glows under the porch light, a promise that hope can take root even in uncertain soil. Gregory Ashford strides down the sidewalk, the find freshly delivered, his steps brisk, but uneven. He glances back at the Carters' house, expecting to see defeat, but finds only resolve in their quiet gathering on the porch. The notice he left flutters against the garden table, ignored, its authority already fading. He passes neighbors who nod politely, their eyes sliding away a little too quickly. A woman watering her petunias offers a stiff smile, then turns her back, the gesture more telling than words. Gregory's jaw tightens as he clutches his folder, knuckles white. The power he once wielded feels slippery, each step echoing with uncertainty. Behind him, the Carters remain in their yard, laughter and gentle conversation drifting into the evening air. Evelyn's voice carries, calm and steady, as she reassures her children. James leans against the porch rail, arms folded, watching Gregory's retreat with a measured gaze. The family's composure unsettles Gregory more than any protest could. A breeze stirs the leaves, carrying whispers from house to house. Windows glow with soft lamplight as residents gather for dinner, but the Carters' garden remains a focal point, its colors bold against the dusk, its presence a quiet rebellion. Gregory senses the shift, the undercurrent of change, but pushes it aside, convincing himself he's restored order. As he rounds the corner, his steps slow. The street behind him is peaceful, but the air is charged with something unspoken, a tension that lingers long after he's gone. Gregory pauses, glancing over his shoulder one last time. The Carters' laughter rings out, clear and unbroken. He continues on, the weight of the folder heavier than before. The victory he claimed feels hollow, the certainty of his authority slipping away with each step. The storm he thought he'd quelled is only gathering strength, quiet but relentless, ready to break open the old order. The next morning, James Carter sits at the dining table, laptop open, scrolling through files. Evelyn leans over his shoulder, her brow furrowed. "Anything?" she asks quietly. James nods, clicking on an old HOA email thread. "Look at this. Maintain uniformity. Preserve the look. Too much color draws attention." His voice is tight, each phrase landing with a sting. Evelyn reads silently, her jaw set. They never say it outright, but it's there. She taps the screen, highlighting a message about a vibrant garden flagged last year. "Miss Rivera's yard," she murmurs, recognition flickering in her eyes. James scrolls further, finding a digital folder of violation notices. Names repeat, mostly families of color, each cited for vague infractions. Ava wanders in, clutching her backpack. She glances at the screen. "Are those all fines?" James nods. "Too many to be random." He prints a few documents, the machine whirring in the quiet kitchen. Evelyn gathers the papers, her hands steady. "We need to show this to someone. It's not just us." Across the street, Ms. Rivera checks her mailbox, pulling out a letter with a sigh. She catches Evelyn's eye, raising the envelope in silent solidarity. Mr. Thompson, cane tapping the sidewalk, pauses as he passes the Carters' house. "You're not alone," he calls, voice rough but kind. "It's been happening for years." James places the stack of emails in a folder, sliding it across the table. "We'll take this to the next meeting. No more hiding." Evelyn nods, resolving to sharpen her features. If they want a fight, they'll get one, on paper, not in anger. The kitchen fills with the quiet energy of purpose. Outside, the garden glows in the morning sun, each bloom a witness to the truth now, coming to light. The Carters' search for answers has begun, and the system's secrets are no longer safe. Ms. Rivera stands in her small kitchen, sunlight filtering through lace curtains. She cradles a chipped mug, staring at the faded photograph on her fridge, a Yaotai, younger version of herself, kneeling beside a riot of blooming roses. The memory is bittersweet. She sighs, her fingers brushing the edge of the picture. A knock at the door startles her. Evelyn Carter stands outside, a gentle smile on her face. "May I come in?" Ms. Rivera nods, stepping aside. They sit at the table, the silence between them heavy but not uncomfortable. Evelyn glances at the photo. "Your roses were beautiful," she says softly. Ms. Rivera's eyes cloud. "Gregory called them unruly. Sent me a warning. Said they didn't fit." Her voice wavers, the hurt still fresh. "I tried to fight, but after the second letter, I dug them up. Planted begonias instead. Easier to keep quiet." She looks down, twisting her ring. Evelyn reaches across the table, her hand warm and steady. "You shouldn't have had to choose." Ms. Rivera's lips tremble, a tear slipping down her cheek. "It's always the same. We make ourselves small so they'll leave us alone. But it never works, does it?" From the hallway, Ms. Rivera's granddaughter peeks in, curiosity in her eyes. Evelyn offers a reassuring nod. "We're not alone. Anymore. We're starting something new." Ms. Rivera wipes her face, straightening her shoulders. "I kept a clipping from the paper. Said gardens bring people together. I want that again." She stands, pulling open a drawer and handing Evelyn a folded newspaper and a packet of rose seeds. "For your family. Plant them for me." Evelyn accepts the gift, gratitude shining in her eyes. "We will, and you'll see them bloom again. Right here." As Evelyn leaves, Ms. Rivera lingers at the window, watching the Carters' garden sway in the breeze. The pain of the past softens, replaced by a flicker of hope that maybe, this time, things will be different. Mr. Thompson sits at his worn desk, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across stacks of yellowed papers. His hand trembles slightly as he feeds a fresh sheet into his old typewriter. Each keystroke is deliberate, the sound echoing through his quiet living room. He pauses, staring at the words. "To the Willow Creek HOA board," he continues, voice barely above a whisper as he reads aloud, "After 30 years, I am stepping down as head of the neighborhood watch. I am tired. Tired of warnings for my painted porch, for a flag in my window, for flowers that stand out." He stops, jaw clenched, remembering the sting of every minor infraction, every polite knock that felt like a threat. His wife, Ruth, enters with a glass of water. She sets it beside him, her touch gentle. "Are you sure about this?" she asks. Mr. Thompson nods, eyes steady. "It's time someone said it plain." He signs his name with a flourish, then folds the letter, sliding it into an envelope. Later, he walks slowly to the Carters' house, cane tapping the walkway. Evelyn opens the door, surprised to see him. He hands her the envelope, his gaze unwavering. "Read it. Use it if you need to." Evelyn's hands close around the letter, understanding the weight it carries. Back home, Mr. Thompson settles into his favorite chair, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. Ruth sits beside him, their hands entwined. "You did what you could," she murmurs. He nods, fatigue etched in every line of his face. Maybe now they'll listen. Evelyn reads the letter aloud to her family that evening. The words are weary but powerful, a record of years spent fighting, of dignity maintained in the face of relentless scrutiny. The Carters resolved to keep documenting, to turn Mr. Thompson's exhaustion into their own determination. As darkness falls, Mr. Thompson's resignation ripples quietly through the community, a final act of defiance, a call for others to carry the torch. Ava adjusts the family's security camera, her small hands steady as she checks the playback on her tablet. Evelyn leans over, eyes narrowed in concentration. "Let's see what we missed," she says quietly. The footage rolls. Gregory walks past the Johnsons' tangled hedges, barely glancing at the overgrowth. He pauses at the Carters' yard, posture stiffening, then scribbles something on a notepad and slips a notice into their mailbox. James watches from behind, arms folded. He didn't even slow down for their weeds, he mutters. Ava rewinds, zooming in on Gregory's face, expression blank as he walks by other homes, only stopping when he reaches theirs. "He only cares when it's us," she whispers, her voice tight. Evelyn exhales, frustration simmering beneath her calm. This is what we needed. She saves the clip, labeling it with the date and time. We'll show them at the meeting. James nods, jaw clenched. It's not about the plants. It never was. Across the street, Ms. Rivera waters her begonias, glancing up as Gregory passes her house without a second look. She meets Evelyn's gaze, a knowing look passing between them. On the porch, Mr. Thompson sits quietly, cane resting against his knee, eyes following Gregory's route. Same old story, he murmurs to himself. Ava emails the footage to her mother's account, attaching a note. Proof. Evelyn squeezes her daughter's shoulder. You did good, honey. Miles peeks around the corner, curiosity in his eyes. Are we in trouble? Evelyn kneels to his level, shaking her head. No, sweetheart. We're just telling the truth. The Carters gather at the dining table, reviewing the evidence. The camera's unblinking lens has captured what words alone could not. A pattern, clear and undeniable. Outside, the garden stands tall, each blossom a witness to the quiet injustice now laid bare. The family's resolve hardens, ready for the next step. The morning sun casts a warm glow over the Carters' garden, where native flowers sway gently in the breeze. Evelyn kneels among the blooms, her hand steady as she tends to a cluster of purple coneflowers. Butterflies flit from blossom to blossom, bees humming a quiet song of life and resilience. Neighbors stroll by, their footsteps slowing as they take in the vibrant colors. Murmurs of admiration ripple through the street. A woman pauses, whispering to her companion, "It's the most beautiful yard in Willow Creek." The garden's success is a silent rebuke to the HOA's rigid rules. Gregory Ashford stands at the edge of the street, his gaze fixed on the flourishing garden. His lips press into a thin line, the fine notices piling up in his office like forgotten threats. The vibrancy before him mocks his authority, each petal a quiet act of defiance. He shifts his weight, eyes darting to the neighbors who now linger, their admiration growing bolder with every passing day. Inside the Carters' home, James reviews photos of the garden on his tablet, sharing them with a local reporter, Tessa Kim. "This is more than a garden," he says. "It's a statement." Tessa nods, her eyes bright with the promise of a story that could change everything. She snaps a few photos, capturing the garden's wild beauty and the pride on Evelyn's face. Evelyn's voice breaks the quiet. "We're not just growing plants, we're growing hope." Her words hang in the air, a testament to the power of beauty as resistance. Miles chases a butterfly, laughter echoing over the fence, while Ava sketches the garden from the porch, her pencil strokes quick and confident. The camera pans over the garden, capturing the delicate balance of nature thriving against the backdrop of systemic exclusion. The scene closes on a close-up of a single bloom, its petals unfolding like a quiet revolution. Tessa Kim sits in her car, notebook open on her lap, the Carters' garden still visible in her rearview mirror. She flips through her notes, the pages, filled with names, dates, and fragments of conversations. Her pen taps against the steering wheel as she reviews the evidence, photos of violation notices, HOA emails, and the footage Ava sent her. She calls Evelyn. "I've cross-checked the records. The pattern's clear. It's not just you." Evelyn's voice is steady on the other end. "We've known each other for a while. We just didn't have proof." Tessa scribbles a headline, her mind racing. "This story could wake up the whole neighborhood." She scrolls through her phone, comparing the Carters' fines with those issued to other families. The numbers don't lie. Families of color are fined for overgrowth, while others are praised for natural charm. Tessa's jaw tightens. She remembers an interview with Miss Rivera. "They said my roses were too wild, but Mrs. Peterson's yard, not a word." The disparity is glaring. Tessa's editor calls, voice brisk. "Did you find anything real?" She hesitates, then answers, "It's bigger than a garden. It's a pattern. I'm sending you the files." The editor's tone softens. "Run with it. But be careful." She returns to the Carter's house, snapping photos of Evelyn tending the flowers, James showing her the folder of old notices. Ava stands nearby, watching with quiet hope. Tessa kneels to capture a shot of Miles releasing a ladybug onto a leaf, the small gesture a symbol of innocence and renewal. As she packs up, Tessa glances at her notebook. Systemic bias, circled in red. She knows the story will ruffle feathers, but the truth is too important to bury. She nods to Evelyn, who meets her gaze with gratitude and resolve. Driving away, Tessa feels the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She's not just reporting on a garden. She's connecting the dots of a much larger injustice. Late at night, Tessa Kim sits at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating a grainy photo of the Carter's garden. She hesitates, then uploads the image to social media with a caption, "The most beautiful yard in Willow Creek is the one they tried to shut down." She tags it "Avenger Growing Justice," her finger hovering for a moment before she hits post. Within minutes, notifications flood in. Strangers comment with their own stories, photos of gardens fined for being different, tales of warnings for colors deemed too bold. One user writes, "Same thing happened to my parents. Different town, same story." Another shares, "We planted sunflowers for my grandmother. They called it a nuisance." The hashtag trends, gathering momentum. Evelyn wakes to a buzzing. Phone. Ava reads aloud, "Mom, you have hundreds of messages. People are sharing their gardens." James scrolls through the feed, shaking his head in disbelief. "This is bigger than us." Miles grins, pointing at a photo of a wildflower patch in another city. "They look like ours." Across town, Gregory's phone pings relentlessly. He scrolls through the posts, his face growing pale, the control he once felt slipping away as the community's support for the Carters swells. At the grocery store, a cashier recognizes Evelyn and whispers, "Thank you for standing up. We're with you." Ms. Rivera, too, finds her mailbox filled with notes of encouragement and seeds sent by strangers. Tessa's inbox overflows with interview requests and tips from other neighborhoods. She calls Evelyn, her voice trembling with excitement. "You started something, Mrs. Carter. People are listening." As the sun rises, yards throughout Willow Creek display new signs. Be it growing justice, painted on rocks, fences adorned with handmade flowers. The Carter's garden, once a target, becomes a rallying point. The quiet act of posting a photo has united a community and sparked a movement that can't be silenced. The community center buzzes with nervous energy as neighbors file in, filling every seat. Folding chairs scrape the floor, voices low but urgent. Gregory sits at the front, his papers stacked neatly, but his hands fidget with the edge of his jacket. The Carters arrive together, heads held high, greeted by nods and quiet words of support. Mrs. Lopez stands by the snack table, her voice carrying as she chats with Ms. Rivera. "Their garden changed everything," she says, glancing at Evelyn. "It's about time someone stood up." A teenager in the back pulls out his phone, scrolling through growing justice posts, showing them to his friends. "Look, it's everywhere now," he whispers, awe in his tone. The meeting begins, Gregory clearing his throat. "Let's address the recent attention." His words falter as a wave of murmurs rises. A man in the middle row speaks up. "We all saw the footage. Why is the Carter's yard a problem, but not the rest?" Gregory's reply is clipped. "We have standards." The crowd shifts, restless. Evelyn stands, her voice even. "We followed the rules. We brought proof." She holds up the folder of emails and violation notices. Tessa Kim, notebook in hand, records every word. Ms. Rivera raises her hand, her tone steady. "I lost my roses because of those letters. I want them back." A hush falls as Mrs. Lopez steps forward, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. "These are from my yard. If you find them, find me too." The room erupts in applause, the energy shifting from caution to solidarity. Gregory's face reddens, his authority shrinking with each cheer. James Carter addresses the crowd. "This is about more than flowers. It's about who gets to belong." Heads nod, some teary-eyed. The meeting ends with neighbors signing a petition, demanding fair treatment, celebrating diversity. As people file out, the Carters are surrounded by handshakes and hugs. The whispers that once filled the street have become a collective roar, impossible to ignore. The morning after the meeting, Mrs. Peterson stands in her front yard, arms crossed, as she surveys her meticulously trimmed lawn. She glances at the Carters' garden, then down at a packet of wildflower seeds in her hand. With a decisive nod, she kneels and begins tearing up a strip of grass along her fence, her movements brisk and determined. Neighbors watch from driveways and windows, curiosity piqued. Mrs. Peterson's husband steps outside, brow raised. "You sure about this?" She smiles, planting the first seeds. "It's time we stopped pretending sameness is what keeps us safe." Her hands work quickly, scattering color where there was once only green. By midday, a patchwork of wildflowers lines, her fence bright and untamed. She paints a small sign, inspired by the Carters, and stakes it in the soil. As she steps back, Gregory walks by, his posture rigid. He pauses, eyes darting from the sign to the flowers, then to Mrs. Peterson's steady gaze. She holds out a slip of paper, a mock violation notice she's written herself. "For excessive beauty," she says dryly. Gregory's jaw tightens, but he says nothing, the power dynamic shifting in the quiet exchange. A few neighbors chuckle, emboldened by her act. Children from the block gather, pointing and laughing, as they help Mrs. Peterson water the new blooms. Evelyn Carter walks over, gratitude in her smile. "Thank you," she says softly. Mrs. Peterson shrugs, wiping her hands on her jeans. "We all needed someone to go first." By evening, other lawns begin to change. Daisies here, sunflowers there. The sameness Gregory once enforced dissolves, replaced by a tapestry of color and community. Mrs. Peterson's gesture, simple but bold, becomes a catalyst. The neighborhood, once divided by invisible lines, now finds unity in shared defiance. Before dawn, Tessa Kim sits at her kitchen table, coffee cooling beside her laptop. She reads her article one last time, quotes from Ms. Rivera, Mr. Thompson's resignation letter, the Carters' evidence, and photos of wildflowers blooming along Mrs. Peterson's fence. With a deep breath, she clicks Publish. The headline flashes. Selective finds. Selective belonging. Willow Creek's garden divide. By breakfast, phones across the neighborhood buzz. Board members exchange urgent texts. Gregory sits at his dining room table, the article open on his tablet. His hand trembles as he scrolls through the story, seeing his own words. Maintain the look. Too much color. Now exposed as the language of exclusion. A group chat among the board lights up, messages flying. Did you see this? We need a response. This is bad. At the HOA office, the board gathers, faces drawn. Mrs. Patel, the treasurer, clears her throat. We can't ignore this. People are angry. Mr. Briggs, usually silent, mutters, My wife's on the phone with Channel 8. Gregory tries to regain control. We'll issue a statement, clarify the standards, but Mrs. Patel cuts him off. The standards are the problem. Meanwhile, Tessa's inbox fills with messages from residents and reporters. Thank you for telling the truth. One reads. Another, we've been waiting for someone to say it out loud. She forwards tips to her editor, her hands steady now. Outside, neighbors gather in small groups, reading the article on their phones. A teenager films a video. This is our street. We want it to look like us. The Carters' garden becomes a backdrop for interviews, a symbol of resistance and hope. Gregory watches from his window as the neighborhood shifts. His authority, once unquestioned, is now the subject of debate and scrutiny. The boardroom's power has been cracked wide open, and the truth, once hidden in memos and whispers, is now public record. Gregory steps out his front door, the usual confidence in his stride replaced by a heaviness he can't shake. The morning air is crisp, but the street feels different, charged, watchful. He tucks his hands into his pockets, avoiding eye contact as he moves past houses now bursting with wildflowers and handmade "growing justice" signs. As he walks, conversations hush. Neighbors who once greeted him with nods now turn away, busying themselves with their gardens or phones. A young father lingers on his porch, arms crossed, gaze steady. Gregory glances up, expecting a greeting, but receives only a cool, silent stare. He slows near Mrs. Peterson's fence, the wildflowers bright against the pickets. Children kneel in the dirt, laughing as they plant new seeds. Mrs. Peterson catches his eye and offers a polite, distant nod. Gone is the warmth of old neighborly exchanges. Gregory's throat tightens as he moves on, the sound of children's laughter ringing behind him. At the end of the block, he pauses in front of the Carter's home. Evelyn is pruning a bush, her movements calm, unhurried. She looks up, meeting his gaze without flinching. Gregory opens his mouth, searching for words, but nothing comes. Evelyn turns back to her work, her dismissal gentle but absolute. A passing jogger slows, glancing at Gregory's empty hands. "Nice morning," she offers, her tone neutral. He nods, but the words feel hollow. The jogger speeds up, leaving him alone on the sidewalk. Returning home, Gregory's steps drag. The walk that once made him feel in control now leaves him exposed, diminished. He stands on his porch, listening to the neighborhood's new rhythm. Voices, raised in conversation, laughter, the buzz of bees among the flowers. The street has moved on, leaving him behind in the quiet aftermath of his own undoing. The morning air is alive with the sound of neighbors gathering outside the community center, shovels and seedlings in hand. Evelyn Carter stands at the heart of the garden, her voice steady as she addresses the growing crowd. "This isn't just about flowers," she says, her gaze sweeping across faces young and old. "It's about reclaiming our space, our voices, and our right to belong." Children kneel beside elders, hands digging into the earth, laughter and quiet encouragement blending with the rustle of leaves. Mrs. Peterson passes a seedling to a young boy, who holds it gently, pride shining in his eyes. The garden becomes a mosaic of colors. Sunflowers, coneflowers, wild violets, each one a testament to defiance and hope. Gregory Ashford lingers at the edge of the gathering, his stance rigid, the weight of the past weeks etched in his features. He watches as the community comes together, his presence now a faint shadow against the backdrop of unity. No one turns to greet him. Their focus is on the work, on each other, on the future they are building with every handful of soil. Ava sits, cross-legged in the grass, sketchbook balanced on her knees, capturing the scene with swift, confident lines. James stands with a group of new board members, sharing stories and plans for more inclusive events. Their nods and smiles signal a shift not just in leadership, but in the spirit of Willow Creek itself. As the sun climbs higher, the camera sweeps over the garden, a living tapestry, alive with movement and color. Evelyn's voice returns, softer now, but no less powerful. "Together, we grow stronger. Together, we heal." The scene lingers on a close-up of a seedling breaking through the soil, a quiet promise that what they've planted today will shape tomorrow. The HOA boardroom is packed, every seat filled, the air thick with anticipation. Papers shuffle, feet tap, and the hum of whispered conversations fills the space. Gregory sits at the head of the table, his notes stacked neatly but his shoulders tense. His gaze flickers over the crowd, neighbors, board members, and the Carters, who sit together, calm and composed. A wooden gavel strikes the table, the sharp sound cutting through the chatter. "We'll come to order," announces Mrs. Patel, her voice clear and steady. Gregory clears his throat, trying to project authority. "We're here to address recent disruptions regarding landscape standards." His words hang, brittle and uncertain. Evelyn Carter's eyes meet his, unwavering. She slides a folder across the table. "We have documentation, emails, notices, photos. We'd like them entered into the record." The room shifts, attention snapping to the folder. the weight of evidence undeniable. A board member, Mr. Briggs, adjusts his glasses and studies the documents. "These are thorough," he mutters, voice low. Tessa Kim, notebook poised, scribbles furiously, capturing every detail. In the back row, Ms. Rivera sits forward, hands clasped, hope flickering in her eyes. Gregory's fingers drum the tabletop, a nervous rhythm betraying his unease. "We have guidelines for a reason," he insists, but the words lack conviction. A neighbor in the audience learns to another, whispering, "It's all coming out now." The tension is palpable, the old order's grip loosening with every passing second. Evelyn's voice remains quiet, but firm. "We followed every rule. We were still singled out." The statement lands with force, rippling through the room. Mrs. Patel nods, her expression grave. "We'll review the evidence, and we'll do it in the open." As the meeting moves forward, the gavel rests on the table, a symbol of authority now questioned. The atmosphere is charged, the truth no longer hidden. The community waits, breath held, for the reckoning that is finally at hand. The room darkens as the projector hums to life, casting a pale glow across the faces gathered in the HOA boardroom. The screen flickers, then sharp images appear. Awards, certificates, and glossy magazine covers showcasing the Carters' landscaping achievements. Murmurs ripple through the crowd, disbelief and admiration mingling in the air. Gregory Ashford's face tightens, his usual composure slipping. He leans forward, eyes narrowing as the evidence unfolds. Mrs. Carter stands beside the screen, her posture calm, voice steady. "We've designed gardens for governors and celebrities," she says softly, the weight of her words filling the room. "Yet here we're labeled violators." A gasp escapes from a board member, her hand covering her mouth. Another shifts uncomfortably, avoiding Gregory's gaze. The contrast between the Carters' accolades and the HOA's accusations is stark, a silent indictment of bias. James Carter places a thick portfolio on the table, its cover gleaming under the projector's light. "This is our work," he says quietly. "Not just gardens, but a legacy." The room leans in, the atmosphere charged with a new respect. Gregory's jaw tightens, his fingers twitching as he tries to maintain control. The power dynamic shifts palpably. The old guard's certainty begins to crumble. A young board member exchanges a glance with Mrs. Patel, nodding subtly. Mrs. Carter's eyes meet Gregory's, unflinching. "We're not asking for permission. We're demanding recognition." The room holds its breath, the moment heavy with unspoken truths. A soft cough breaks the tension as Mr. Briggs clears his throat, shifting in his seat. He glances at Gregory, then at the Carters, his expression unreadable but thoughtful. The projector clicks off, leaving the room bathed in soft light. Silence stretches. Then a tentative applause begins, growing steadily. Gregory sits back, the weight of the Carters' achievements pressing down, his authority quietly eroding. The scene closes on the Carters, standing tall, their quiet dignity, a beacon of change in a room once ruled by exclusion. Mrs. Patel leans forward, voice low but firm. "It's time we recognize true excellence, not just conformity." The room nods, the shift undeniable. Gregory's shoulders slump, the old order fading into the background. James Carter stands, his hands steady as he places a thick, well-worn book on the table. The gold lettering on the cover reads, "Landscaping with Purpose." He opens it to a marked page and slides it across to the board. "Page 42, he says, his tone even. "Your own guidelines praise native plants and biodiversity. That's what we planted." A hush falls over the room. Mrs. Patel flips through the HOA manual, frowning as she compares it to the Carters' portfolio. She looks up, her voice measured. It's the same language, word for word. The board members exchange uneasy glances, the foundation of their argument crumbling. Gregory's face reddens. He reaches for the manual, hands shaking slightly. "Intent matters," he stammers, but the words sound hollow. A neighbor in the audience whispers, "They followed every step." Another nods. "They did more than most of us ever could." Evelyn Carter's gaze is unwavering. "We built our lives on these principles. You find us for what you claim to value." Her words are soft, but each one lands with precision. A young board member, Ms. Chen, raises her hand. "Why are we punishing excellence?" The tension in the room thickens. Mr. Briggs clears his throat, his voice unsteady. "We need to reconsider these citations." Tessa Kim scribbles furiously in her notebook, capturing every shift in the room's energy. Gregory's grip on the manual loosens. He glances at the Carters, then at his fellow board members, searching for support and finding none. The authority he once held now feels brittle, ready to snap. James closes the book gently. "We're not here to fight. We're here to be treated fairly." The board sits in uneasy silence, the rulebook now a symbol of their own undoing. Mrs. Patel nods, her decision clear. "We'll review every violation, starting with yours." The Carters exchange a glance, relief, pride, and the knowledge that justice, though slow, is finally stirring. Mrs. Lopez rises from her seat, the weight of years pressing on her shoulders. Her voice, though soft, carries the strength of generations. "You found my roses," she says, holding up a faded photo of her once vibrant garden. "Let them find this," she adds, tossing a picture of the Carters' flourishing yard onto the table. The room shifts, murmurs rising like a tide. Neighbors lean forward, eyes bright with recognition and resolve. One by one, others share images of their own gardens, each a testament to beauty and resilience, untouched by fines. The hypocrisy of selective enforcement is laid bare. Gregory's face tightens, his usual composure cracking. He glances around, seeking support, but finds only raised eyebrows and quiet disapproval. The boardroom's atmosphere thickens with tension, the old guard's grip loosening. A young woman stands, her voice steady. "We want their garden, not your rules," she declares, the words slicing through the room. Applause follows, hesitant at first, then swelling into a chorus of agreement. Mrs. Carter meets Gregory's gaze, calm and unyielding. "Our garden is a symbol," she says softly, "of what this community can be when we embrace diversity, not fear." Gregory swallows hard, the room's energy shifting beneath his feet. His hands tremble slightly as he adjusts his tie, the veneer of control slipping away. The board members exchange glances, some nodding in quiet support. The power dynamic has shifted, the community's voice rising above the old rules. The air is thick with anticipation as the crowd leans in, the weight of years of silence finally breaking. Mrs. Lopez's words echo in the room, a call to action that cannot be ignored. Gregory's usual defenses falter, his eyes darting nervously. The community's unity is palpable, a force that reshapes the very foundation of the meeting. A child's laughter rings out from the back, a reminder of what's at stake. The Carters' garden, once a point of contention, now stands as a symbol of hope and resilience. The boardroom, once a place of rigid control, is transformed by the voices of those who demand change. Gregory grips the microphone, his knuckles pale under the harsh boardroom lights. "Rules! Rules protect us!" he stammers, voice cracking like brittle glass. Sweat beads trace a slow path down his temples, his usual composure unraveling with every word. The room leans in, sensing the fracture, the shift in power almost tangible. Mrs. Patel shifts uneasily, her pen tapping a nervous rhythm against her notepad. Board members exchange glances. Some avert their eyes, others press their lips together, uncertain. The Carters' evidence sits in the center of the table, a silent verdict that weighs on every heart in the room. Gregory's voice falters again, thinner now. I'm just trying to maintain order." His hands tremble as he clutches his notes, the ink smudging beneath his damp fingers. A bead of sweat falls onto the paper, blurring the word standards. He glances at the audience, searching for support, but finds only wary faces and folded arms. A neighbor whispers, "He's losing it." Another nods, eyes sharp with newfound resolve. The power that once seemed unshakable now feels brittle, slipping through Gregory's grasp with every second. Mrs. Carter stands, her presence calm and unwavering. We don't need to shout. Our work speaks for itself. Her words cut through the tension, a quiet declaration of dignity and strength that lands with more force than any raised voice. The room holds its breath, the stillness thick with unspoken truths. Gregory's shoulders slump, the microphone slipping from his grasp with a soft clatter onto the table. The old order crumbles, replaced by a new respect, one built on fairness, not fear. A young board member clears her throat, breaking the tension. "Perhaps it's time to reconsider our approach," she suggests, voice tentative but hopeful. Gregory nods weakly, eyes downcast. The meeting shifts, the balance of power tilting irrevocably. The Carters' quiet victory is complete, their dignity intact. The scene closes on the fallen microphone, a symbol of a voice once loud, now silenced by truth. Mrs. Carter stands before the gathered crowd in the community hall, her voice calm but resolute. "We don't want to fight. We want to grow together," she says, holding up flyers for free landscaping workshops. The room, once tense, softens as neighbors lean in, curiosity replacing suspicion. Gregory Ashford sits at the back, his posture slumped, eyes darting nervously. The weight of recent events presses on him, the fines and accusations now a distant echo. He watches as Mrs. Carter outlines plans to teach native planting, community care, and sustainable gardening. A young mother raises her hand, voice tentative. "Will these workshops be open to everyone?" Evelyn nods. "Absolutely. This is about building bridges, not walls." James Carter steps forward, sharing stories of how gardens can unite diverse communities. His words resonate, drawing nods and murmurs of agreement. The atmosphere shifts from confrontation to collaboration. Mrs. Peterson, the white retiree who planted wildflowers, offers a small smile from the side, her presence a quiet endorsement. Children play nearby, their laughter a backdrop to the hopeful scene. Gregory's gaze falls to his hands, clenched in his lap. The power he once wielded feels fragile, slipping through his fingers. The room's energy is no longer his to command. As the meeting concludes, neighbors exchange contact information, eager to participate. The Carters' workshops become a symbol of change, an invitation to grow, learn, and heal together. The scene closes on a close-up of a seedling breaking through soil, a quiet promise of renewal and unity. The room buzzes softly with new energy, a stark contrast to the tension that once filled the air. Neighbors exchange hopeful glances, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights. Evelyn's voice carries through the hall, steady and inviting. "This is more than gardening," she continues. "It's about reclaiming our community, our stories, and our futures." A teenager steps forward, shy but determined. "Can we bring our own ideas?" "Yes," Evelyn replies. "This is a space for everyone's voice." Gregory shifts uncomfortably, the realization settling deeper. The boardroom hangs in a hush, tension thick as the board members lean over their papers. Pens move quietly in the dim light, each stroke a small act of reckoning. Mrs. Patel slides, a folded note across the polished table to Gregory, her eyes unwavering, her message unmistakable: resign or face removal. Gregory's hand hovers, fingers trembling as he reaches for the note, the certainty in his posture replaced by hesitation and doubt. James Carter stands near the wall, his gaze sharp and steady. The Carters' presence is a calm anchor amid the coiling anxiety that fills the room. Ms. Chen, the youngest board member, exchanges a look with Mrs. Patel, a silent pact, a signal that the old order is being dismantled from within. Gregory's pen hovers over the note, the decision before him heavier than any rule he's ever enforced. The room holds its breath, the only sound the soft scratching of pens as votes are cast and lines are drawn. His usual confidence falters. replaced by a brittle uncertainty, the authority he once took for granted slipping away with every passing second. A board member clears his throat, breaking the stillness. "It's time for change," he says, voice barely above a whisper but firm with conviction. Others nod, the momentum building, the tide turning. Gregory's shoulders sag, the fight draining from him as he senses the shift is final. Outside, a teenager quietly films through the glass, capturing the subtle collapse of authority. The footage will soon ripple through the neighborhood, a testament to the power of collective will and the end of an era. Mrs. Carter steps forward, her voice calm and resolute. "We're ready to grow together," she says, her words carrying hope and resolve that fill the room. The boardroom, once a fortress of resistance, begins to open to possibility. Gregory folds the note, the gold pin of his presidency catching the light one last time before he slips it into his pocket. The scene closes on the quiet scratching of pens, the unmistakable sound of a new chapter beginning. Gregory Ashford sits alone at the head of the boardroom table, the weight of recent events pressing down like a physical force. His longtime supporter, Mr. Briggs, quietly gathers his papers, eyes fixed on the floor. The scrape of chairs echoes. As others rise, a slow exodus that drains the room of its former certainty. Gregory's gaze darts around the now empty space, the echo of footsteps a stark reminder of his isolation. He folds a crumpled agenda, hands trembling, the gold pin of his presidency catching the dim light one last time before he slips it into his pocket. The Carters pack their belongings slowly, their calm composure a sharp contrast to Gregory's unraveling. Evelyn exchanges a brief, knowing glance with James, a silent acknowledgement of the victory hard won and the dignity maintained. A janitor sweeps near the doorway, pausing to glance at the fallen papers scattered on the floor. His eyes linger on the empty chair where Gregory once sat, a quiet testament to the shifting power dynamics. The hum of voices outside the boardroom fades into a hush, the building itself seeming to mourn the end of an era. Gregory stands, shoulders slumped, and takes a slow, measured breath. He walks toward the exit, the door closing softly behind him, the sound marking the finality of his fall from grace. The hallway feels colder, emptier, as if the walls themselves have turned away. Outside, neighbors gather in small groups, their conversations low but filled with hope. Children play nearby, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension that once gripped the street. The Carters' garden glows in the afternoon sun, a beacon of resilience and change. Gregory pauses at the corner, looking back one last time. His face is a mixture of regret and reluctant acceptance. The storm he tried to quell has become a force beyond his control, and he steps forward into an uncertain future. The scene closes on the empty boardroom, scattered papers and the soft echo of footsteps fading into the distance, a quiet but powerful symbol of change. Gregory fumbles with his HOA president pin, the gold emblem catching light one last time. It clatters to the table, a tiny, final surrender. The custodian sweeps it into a dustpan later, indifferent. Power, once worn so lightly, becomes trash. Gregory sits alone in his dimly lit living room, the weight of recent events pressing down. His fingers trace the edges of the pin, now dull and lifeless. The silence around him is thick, broken only by the distant hum of traffic outside. He recalls the meetings, the confrontations, the slow unraveling of his authority. Each moment replays like a film, the faces of neighbors, board members, and the Carters etched in his memory. The pin, once a symbol of control, now feels like a chain. A knock at the door startles him. The janitor, Carlos, stands there, holding a small box. "Thought you might want this," he says quietly, placing the box on the table before leaving without waiting for a response. Gregory opens the box to find the pin, cleaned and polished, resting on a bed of soft cloth. A note lies beneath it. Power is fleeting, but respect endures. He stares at the note, a mix of regret and reflection washing over him. The room feels colder, emptier, but within that emptiness a seed of understanding begins to grow. Outside, the neighborhood moves on, vibrant and alive. The garden blooms, children play, and the future unfolds without him. The scene closes on the pin, a small but potent symbol of a chapter ended and the possibility of redemption ahead. Gregory sighs deeply, the weight of his past actions settling in. He places the pin carefully back into the box, closing it with a soft click. The room is silent, save for the distant laughter of children outside, a reminder of life moving forward without him. He leans back in his chair, eyes closing briefly, the quiet acceptance of change washing over him. The pin, once a badge of power, now a relic of a time gone by. The morning sun warms the hands of neighbors gathered in the freshly tilled community garden. Evelyn Carter kneels in the rich soil, fingers pressing seeds into the earth with care and purpose. Around her, children laugh and dig alongside elders, their faces bright with hope and determination. Mrs. Peterson hands a seedling to a young boy, who cradles it gently, pride shining in his eyes. The garden blooms with a tapestry of colors. Sunflowers, coneflowers, and wild violets, each a symbol of resilience and unity. The air hums with the quiet energy of renewal. Gregory Ashford lingers at the edge of the gathering, his posture stiff, the weight of recent events etched in his features. He watches as the community comes together, their hands working the soil, their voices rising in shared purpose. No one meets his gaze. His presence is a fading shadow against the vibrant backdrop. Ava sketches the scene, her pencil moving swiftly across the page, capturing the spirit of growth and change. James stands with new board members exchanging plans and smiles, their nods signaling a shift not just in leadership, but in the heart of Willow Creek. As the sun climbs higher, the camera pans over the garden, a living mosaic alive with movement and color. Evelyn's voice carries softly, "Together, we grow stronger." A young mother wipes a tear as she recalls the times her own garden was criticized, now finding solace in the collective strength around her. The community's focus is forward, on growth, healing, and the shared joy of reclaiming their space. Evelyn's hands, dirt-streaked and steady, plant the final seedling of the morning. She looks up, meeting the eyes of those gathered, a silent vow passing between them. The promise of tomorrow is rooted deep in the soil, nurtured by the hands of a community reborn. Gregory sits alone by the cafe window, the morning light casting long shadows across his face. His phone buzzes relentlessly, notifications flooding in with praise for the Carter's garden and calls for change. He scrolls through glowing articles, each headline a quiet rebuke. The barista sets a coffee in front of him, eyes avoiding his gaze. The greeting is curt, the warmth he once commanded replaced by a cool distance. Gregory's fingers tighten around the cup, knuckles pale. Outside, neighbors across the street, their steps deliberate, avoiding eye contact. A woman with a stroller pauses, then veers away, her face unreadable. The street feels smaller, colder, the community's embrace withdrawn. Gregory's mind races, replaying the boardroom meeting, the evidence laid bare, the shifting loyalties. His authority, once unquestioned, now feels fragile, slipping like sand through his fingers. He glances at the empty chair across from him, the silence heavy. The cafe's hum feels distant, a reminder of a world moving on without him. His breath catches as a child's laughter rings out nearby, a stark contrast to his isolation. A soft sigh escapes him. He lowers his phone, eyes fixed on the window, watching the neighborhood bloom with color and life. The garden he tried to control has become a symbol of resilience and change. Gregory's shoulders slump, the weight of consequence settling in. The warmth he once wielded is gone, replaced by a chill that seeps deep. The scene closes on his reflection. In the glass, a man diminished, left to reckon with the quiet aftermath of his own undoing. Gregory sits at his desk, the glow of the computer screen casting a pale light on his weary face. He opens his email, fingers hesitating over the keyboard. The inbox is nearly empty. No messages of support, no calls for help. Just one email from the HOA board, a formal request for his resignation. His breath catches. The silence in the room is heavy, filled with the weight of endings. He scrolls through the message again, the words cold and final. Your resignation has been accepted. Please return all keys and documents by Friday. The routine tone belies the personal defeat. Gregory leans back, eyes closing briefly. Memories flood. Board meetings, confrontations, the slow unraveling of his authority. Each moment replays like a shadowed film, the faces of neighbors and the Carters etched in his mind. The phone rings once, twice, then stops. He doesn't answer. The quiet is deafening. A knock at the door breaks the stillness. The janitor, Carlos, stands there, holding a small package. Thought you might want this, he says softly, placing it on the desk before leaving without waiting for a response. Gregory opens the package to find his HOA president pin, polished and gleaming. A note lies beneath. Power fades, but respect endures. He stares at the pin, a mix of regret and reflection washing over him. The room feels colder, emptier, but within that emptiness, a seed of understanding begins to grow. Outside, the neighborhood hums with life. Children play, gardens bloom, and the future moves forward without him. The scene closes on Gregory's face, a man forced to reckon with the quiet aftermath of his own undoing. The morning mail brings a glossy magazine to the Carters' doorstep, its cover splashed with vibrant colors. Evelyn picks it up, surprise flickering across her face as she sees their garden featured front and center. "Look at this," she calls, gathering her family around the kitchen table. Ava flips through. The pages eyes wide, photographs of their yard, wildflowers, native grasses, children laughing among the blooms, fill the spread. The article praises their creativity and resilience, calling their garden a symbol of hope and transformation for Willow Creek. James grins, pride warming his voice. They finally see it for what it is. Neighbors stop by throughout the day, magazine in hand, offering congratulations and shy smiles. Mrs. Peterson lingers at the gate, her voice soft. Your garden changed everything. Thank you for showing us what's possible. Evelyn's cheeks flush, gratitude and humility mingling in her eyes. Across town, Gregory sits in the cafe, the same magazine open on the counter. He traces the headline with his finger, the words, "A Quiet Rebuke." The Carters' triumph is now the pride of the community, and a reminder of his own defeat. Tessa. Kim, the reporter, sends a quick text. You did it. People are listening. Evelyn replies with a simple, heartfelt thank you. As evening falls, the Carters gather in their yard. Neighbors join them, sharing stories and laughter. Children run. Through the flowers, their joy unrestrained. The garden glows in the golden light, a living testament to what can grow from courage and unity. The camera lingers on the magazine cover resting on the garden table, the Carters' story now woven into the fabric of the neighborhood. Their garden, once a point of contention, has become a beacon, proof that beauty and justice can flourish, even in the most unlikely places. The new HOA boardroom hums with a different kind of energy, one built on possibility, not exclusion. Fresh faces fill the seats, each member bringing stories and perspectives that were once left outside the door. Evelyn Carter sits among them, her hands folded calmly in her lap, eyes bright with hope and quiet pride. The old rule book lies open, on the table, its pages worn, its authority fading with every passing moment. Mrs. Patel, now chairing the meeting, speaks with a measured confidence. We're here to rewrite the narrative, she says, her voice steady and resolute. Our community deserves standards that reflect all of us, not just a select few. Around the table, heads nod in agreement. Some members jot notes, others exchange approving glances. James Carter stands, presenting a draft of updated landscaping guidelines. These rules honor diversity and encourage creativity, he explains, passing the document down the line. Miss Chen, the youngest on the board, adds, "We're not just changing policies, we're changing mindsets." Her words settle over the room, a promise of lasting transformation. Outside, neighbors gather at windows, watching the meeting unfold. Children play nearby, their laughter rising above the hum of discussion, a subtle soundtrack to the community's rebirth. The Carters' garden, once a battleground, is now a symbol of what's possible when everyone's voice matters. At the back of the room, Gregory Ashford sits apart, posture rigid, the weight of recent events etched into his features. He watches as the new board works with confidence and unity, his own influence now a distant memory. The door closes behind the last of the old guard, the sound final and freeing. The scene lingers on Evelyn's steady hands as she plants a seedling. In the community garden outside, a living emblem of growth, renewal, and the promise of a new dawn for Willow Creek. The community center buzzes with quiet excitement as neighbors gather around tables laden with pots, soil, and seedlings. Evelyn Carter stands at the front, her voice calm and inviting. "This is more than gardening," she begins. "It's about planting roots of understanding, respect, and unity." The room fills with nods and smiles. Children sit cross-legged. On the floor, their hands eager to dig into the earth. Ava helps a small boy plant a sunflower seed, her patience gentle and encouraging. James moves among the adults, sharing tips on native plants and sustainable care. The atmosphere is warm, hopeful, a stark contrast to the tension that once gripped the neighborhood. Mrs. Peterson arrives with a basket of wildflower seeds, distributing them with a bright smile. "Inspired by all of you," she says softly. Neighbors exchange stories, laughter breaking through old barriers. Ms. Rivera leans in, sharing memories of past struggles, her voice steady but emotional. "This is what we've been waiting for." Gregory Ashford watches from a distance, his presence unnoticed by most. He stands near the doorway, arms crossed, a mixture of regret and resignation in his eyes. The community's energy is undeniable, their collective spirit unbreakable. As the workshop continues, hands dirty and hearts open, the garden outside begins to take shape, not just a patch of land, but a symbol of healing. Evelyn's voice carries through the room, steady and sure. "Together we grow stronger." The scene closes on a close-up of a seedling pushing through the soil, fragile yet determined. The neighborhood's future, once uncertain, now blossoms, with possibility, nurtured by the shared commitment of its people. Willow Creek wakes to a transformation. Lawns once uniform and subdued now burst with color. Sunflowers, daisies, and native grasses sway in the morning breeze. Neighbors step outside, pausing to admire each other's handiwork. Children dart between flower beds, laughter ringing out as they chase butterflies and collect petals for makeshift crowns. Mrs. Peterson kneels by her fence, planting a fresh row of wild violets. She waves at Ms. Rivera, who is tending to a patch of bright marigolds. "Looks beautiful," she calls, her voice light. Ms. Rivera grins, pride shining in her eyes. "Yours too. I never thought I'd see this street so alive." James Carter walks with Miles, pointing out new blooms in every yard. "See, son, this is what happens when people let go of fear." Miles nods, his hands full of clover and tiny bluebells. "It's like everyone's painting with flowers," he says, wonder in his voice. Evelyn stands at the curb, watching as neighbors gather in small groups, trading seeds and stories. The judgment that once hovered over every deviation from the norm has faded, replaced by genuine curiosity and shared delight. A young couple stops to ask for advice on starting their own garden. Evelyn smiles, offering a handful of seeds. "Start with these. They're resilient." Gregory passes by, his steps slow. He glances at the vibrant lawns, at the smiles exchanged between neighbors, and feels the distance between himself and the community. No one looks his way, their focus on growth, connection, and celebration. As the sun climbs higher, the street hums with the sound of new beginnings. Lawns have become canvases, each one a unique expression of hope and belonging. The old rules have faded, replaced by a joy that is impossible to contain. The camera pans over Willow Creek, once divided, now united in color and community. Evelyn Carter sits on her porch as dusk settles, the day's warmth lingering in the air. She watches her children play among the flowers, their laughter weaving through the garden's gentle hush. The colors of the yard seem to glow in the fading light, each bloom a quiet testament to battles fought and won. She sips her tea, gaze drifting to the neighbors strolling past. Some wave, others pause to admire a new blossom or share a kind word. The tension that once gripped the street has melted into a sense of ease, replaced by a rhythm of acceptance and shared pride. Evelyn's shoulders relax as she breathes in the scent of jasmine and earth. Ava joins her, settling beside her on the steps. "Did you ever think it would feel like this?" she asks, voice soft. Evelyn smiles, her eyes reflecting the garden's peace. "I hoped." "Sometimes hope is enough to get you through the hardest days." She brushes a strand of hair from Ava's face, her touch gentle. Across the way, Mrs. Peterson tends a patch of daisies, waving with a muddy hand. Ms. Rivera sits on her porch, humming as she waters her roses, once uprooted, now thriving again. The neighborhood's transformation is quiet but profound. James appears in the doorway holding a tray of lemonade. "You did this," he says, setting the tray down. Evelyn shakes her head, her smile deepening. "We did this. All of us." She looks out over the garden, the street, the community reborn. A neighbor approaches, hesitant but hopeful. "Could you show me how to start a butterfly garden?" Evelyn nods, rising to meet her. "Of course. Let's begin." The scene closes on Evelyn's serene smile, the wisdom of patience and stillness etched in every line of her face. The garden, once a battleground, is now a sanctuary, a place where change blossomed quietly, nurtured by courage and care. The afternoon sun casts a golden glow over the Carter's garden, now a sanctuary of color and life. Evelyn kneels in the soft earth, a small seedling cupped gently in her hands. A neighbor approaches, hesitant but hopeful, holding an empty pot. "Could I have a cutting?" she asks, voice quiet. Evelyn smiles, nodding. "Of course." She carefully separates a young plant, pressing it into the neighbor's waiting hands. The exchange is simple, but carries the weight of everything that's changed: fear replaced by trust, suspicion by generosity. Children gather around, watching. As the neighbor cradles her new seedling, their faces bright with curiosity and pride. James joins Evelyn, wiping dirt from his palms. "It's strange," he murmurs, "how something so small can mean so much." Evelyn glances at him, warmth in her eyes. Every garden starts with a single seed. Every change starts with a single act of courage. Across the street, Mrs. Peterson waves, her own yard alive with wildflowers. Miss Rivera tends to her roses, humming a tune that drifts on the breeze. The neighborhood, once divided by invisible lines, now pulses with connection and hope. Ava sketches the scene, capturing the moment for her scrapbook. Miles chases a butterfly, laughter ringing out as it flits from bloom to bloom. The garden is no longer a point of contention, but a gathering place, a living legacy of resilience and unity. As evening falls, Evelyn stands and surveys the yard. The final seedling, planted with care, takes root beside the others. She wipes, her hands on her jeans, contentment settling in her chest. The story closes on the garden, once a battleground, now a sanctuary, proof that justice and beauty can grow together, nurtured by hands willing to reach across old divides.